Right, it is 10 a.m. and I had one trade with GEGI. This one did not really work, although it could possibly try to work later. I traded this because it's an uptrending stock. It had a nice spike from this 49 so penny level to the 62s, and then it started to sell off. And I was interested in it because it was looking like a bull flag, and it even had like a dip under VWAP. And I wanted a bit of a confirmation, so I did buy it, not necessarily under VWAP, but when it was starting to get above it and it was looking like it was trying to uptrend. And I did try to cancel my order after I placed it. It just was taking forever to get filled, so I tried to get out of it and I wasn't able to, and I did get filled ultimately, but I was long 30,000 shares at 9. I think it would have been 955. I want to see if this 57 level can break. I just got tired of the price action because there would be like these little buys, and then somebody would dump a whole bunch of shares at the bid, and it just looked really ugly. And then we had like these two very large sellers at 58, but if it breaks 57, it could try to break 58 because that would mean it has strong momentum. And again, at 955, I was in it right here at 57, 30,000 shares, and I held on to it, but I just hated the price action so bad. And my original idea was that I was going to cut it if it breaks under VWAP, and then, worst case, if I'm out at, let's say this sub penny 50 level, that would be roughly a $20 loss according to a 20 to a $25 risk level. And I got out at 10 o'clock at 56. I just hated the price action. It was just looking ugly. I probably lost a really small amount of money because just one tick, even if it is a sub penny. And I did try to trade GESI. I did see the trend line breaking right here, and I would have traded it, but it's not tradable on Fidelity. This is the first time I ever had an issue with Fidelity not letting me, try to get in a setup. Let's just say, for example, at $2, right? 100 shares at $2, right? All transactions for caveat emptor are not permitted. It's just something I can't trade anymore. But this one did offer a morning panic bounce play. In theory, it went and played off of the $3 level and it got as high as 337. So I guess that was 10% and it didn't even get to VWAP. And yeah, that's really about it for right now. I was also looking at TXTM. Although I didn't really see anything too interesting. If anything, it makes me feel like this thing might try to have like a much larger panic throughout the day. So there hasn't been anything that I wanted to trade. Although it was a little interesting when it had a dip towards this 168 level right here, and then it kind of came back to it a little lower, but it didn't uptrend that much. It did drop one more time before it made a move towards VWAP, but I don't really mind missing this one. Yeah, this could be like the morning panic bounce play lower low setup right here with GESI. And maybe it can even try to touch VWAP if it wants to. Maybe it's still going to sell off a lot more. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to trade this one. And then I just really hated the price action with GEGI. It's no longer looking like a bull flag where I had an uptrend and then a downtrend. But it wasn't able to break this 57, at least convincingly, because it did a little here and it just came back. So yeah, just one trade here so far, and I will make an update later. There's nothing that I'm too interested in right now. Alright, it is 10:10. I was busy adding GEGI to my trading thing where I just, record all my trades and stuff. This thing had a dip under VWAP and it was a very considerable drop. I guess this maybe wiped out whatever freaking seller was not letting it get past 57, maybe. And this thing offered a nice bounce. In theory, I could have been in. There was a point when I was looking at it at 49, but I didn't take it because I didn't spend that much time looking at the price action, and I didn't want to trade it even if it looks nice because maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe there was a big seller at the ask and it disappeared and I'm not aware of it. But this thing made a nice move from 49 to 54 right now, and for a while the bid was not catching up, but it eventually did. And this was pretty much a setup. So I don't think there's really anything I want to trade with GEGI anymore unless it maybe tries to break the day high, but that will be probably later in the day if it does something like that. I just wanted to note that at least it did offer a setup. It wasn't just a complete failure of a stock, and it is still uptrending overall. This was pretty impressive. A dip you know, and now a comeback right towards VWAP, and it could try to get even higher. I'll make another update later, but at least it offered some kind of a move. Alright, it is 10:48 a.m. and I had another trade with GEGI, and this one did not work as well. I just hate the price action. It feels like there is just somebody that has way too much size, and maybe they got trapped in a previous run up or something like that. Like there was a run up here with a lot of volume at some point, and maybe they're just selling into this price action, but it just seems really ugly the way it trades. It feels like somebody is massively shorting it, or there are just these big sellers and they're just trying to dump this stock. So I did try it one more time, and it looks a bit like an inverse head and shoulders. The shoulder, the head, and then the shoulder right here. And then I had to move towards 60. And I liked it because this was like the second higher low off of that inverse head and shoulders. And then the idea was is that it was going to be much stronger and actually be able to hold above VWAP, no longer touching it, but holding above it. And then it could try to break towards the 60 level and make a move towards the upside. I was watching it on this uptrend, but I thought it would be nicer if it would just have one more dip, float above VWAP, and then try to break the 60 level. And then maybe it can even try to get higher, break 63, and be like a nice high day breakout. I was in 15,000 shares, which is a lot less because I was thinking, you know, worst case scenario, I'm going to be in at 61, which would have been this price point right here at 61. And then I thought worst case, you know, I'm out at 55 cutting losses if it, you know, decides to fail. And then worst case scenario, I'm out at the day low. Maybe that was a bit too far in terms of a risk level, but if you see that's 91, it turns into 70. So that's $21. That's pretty close to a 20 to a $25 risk level. If not, it's exactly there. And I did get in at 58, sub penny level at 1040. So 1040 was right here is when I got in. And it was looking good at first. You know, it was like uptrending. It got to 59. It even got to 59 and a half, which was pretty close to 60. But somebody just has way too many shares to dump. And we would have these little buys. As you can see here, just 200 shares. 5,000, 50,000. But look at all this dumping price action. It was just ugly. And I don't think I'm going to trade the stock anymore because it just seems like this one is cursed. It has too many sellers, bag holders, or maybe market makers shorting it. Even if it, you know, tries to do a really ugly uptrend and it goes to 70 or something, I probably don't want to trade it anymore just because of how ugly it is. But at least I tried, and in theory, most of the times, this setup can play out just not with this one right here. And I'll make an update later. GESI continued to sell off. It's going to be very hard for this to offer a morning panic bounce play. You know, even though it did offer one, because if it has a caveat thing, it's not going to be easy for most people to buy. So it's going to be very hard for it to uptrend, and it just keeps downtrending. So yeah, that's pretty impressive with that. No interest with SYXX, no interest with GTOR. TXTM, I was slightly interested in it because I thought this could be like an inverse head and shoulders. The shoulder had the whole entire shoulder right here. And I didn't necessarily want to trade it. I think I was looking at GEGI, but I thought, you know, maybe it can make this uptrend and it makes the second higher low off of that inverse head and shoulders as well. And then it breaks VWAP, right? But it never really did it. It failed. So that was another setup I had in mind, but that one didn't play out. I didn't even trade it. I'll make an update as to what GEGI does, but I'm probably going to stay away from trading it unless it does something just stupid obvious. I just hate the price action, how it looks like it's going to really make a move, and then somebody's just starting to dump so much shares. Like, it just seems like it's a trap. So I like to see it work out without me and prove that it can actually make a move besides this one right here. Otherwise, yeah, this is a pretty cursed stock. I just don't like the way it trades. It is 11:38 a.m. and this looks like it's trying to break the day high, and I did trade it one more time even though I didn't want to because it just looked that much better than before, and I don't really like myself, but the price action was pretty bad. But it is still trying to hold this trend line that I've had here, and it's not as ugly as the previous two times, like the first time I tried it here and the second time when I tried it here. This looks a lot better, and we're also near the middle of the day, which is a time a lot of stocks can break the day high if it doesn't do it right at the morning. We do have sellers at 64, but In theory, if we break the day high, there could be a lot of momentum that will push through it. And I was long 15,000 shares. In this case, I should have went higher to 20,000 shares because of the fact that I was going to trade based off of this trend line right here. I was in at 1132. And in theory, I was going to cut it if it was going to break the trend line. And then with some slippage, I thought worst case scenario, I'll be out at 50, which is higher than 47. So I probably should have had, I think, 20,000 shares. And I did sell. Why? Because we did uptrend, we did break 62, and then 63 showed up at the ask, but there was like a 4 million share seller, which is huge, really bearish. And that's why I did get out ultimately at 1135, which was right here at 62. I got out right here at 62, and it did try to hold itself together. It's still holding the trend line. In theory, what I would have liked to have done better with this trade is that my entry was fine at 1132 because I saw a change in the price action and everything, and I was in at 61. And then when that big 4 million share seller showed up at 63, I think I could have tried to have perhaps sold half of my position, and then I would have sold half at 61, and then that last piece I would be holding still for this break under the trend line. If it were to break under the trend line, I would then cut the rest of the trade for sure. Even if it would be at a loss, at least it would give myself more opportunity to be a part of an uptrend, which this thing is still trying to do. And right now we're at 62. If it breaks and we get to the 61s, I probably cut the other half, but at least I gave myself that exposure in the event that, it continued to uptrend massively. I would have been able to really profit from it. So, yeah, I'll keep watching this. Maybe I'll leave this running a little longer to see what it does. But yeah, this is totally better price action compared to the previous two trades. And even though I didn't really make anything from this, I just basically made back what I lost on the second trade. This is a lot better. At least I tried, even though this thing was frustrating because it was looking that much better. I would have been pretty salty if I did trade it these two times and then I hesitated on this one, and then it, ends up being the one that works out. So even though I didn't, again, sell my best here, at least I did try it here after being frustrated with these past two trades. But it's still holding this trend line, which is nice. Yeah. Or maybe what I could do is instead of selling the second half, I would just sell half of that second half here, and then the other half I would absolutely cut the trade if it breaks under the trend line. But we're now at 64 by 65. That's a lot of volume. I'm glad it's doing it. All right, well, that's definitely something I could have done better. I'm glad this thing wasn't just so depressing it didn't offer a single setup, besides this one here. I'll make an update as to what this one does. I don't think I'm going to be trading anything else for the rest of today. Okay, it is 9:26 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'll be down just $3 trading this extremely frustrating GEGI stock 3 times, and I really like how I had those two setups. That first setup here, and then the second setup here. They both didn't work out, but then this one right here did work out. And had I have had the right amount of shares, as you can see right here, this was a $16 loss if it were to have absolutely failed and I had to cut losses at this 50 sub penny level. If I were to have traded the right amount of shares to make it a $20 risk level, right, and then I could have sold potentially better at 64, which was very realistic. I could have been green on the day, and I like how that would have wiped out the two previous trades had I just traded a little better in that sense. And I like how I didn't even trade that well, but I canceled out the other trade. There was definitely a lot of opportunity for me to be better there, and I could have again traded this part, which would have been pretty nice. I wasn't interested in it anymore, although I guess I did make a dip here and get to VWAP, but I just don't like how this was later in the day. They don't seem to really work that nicely. GESI was impressive, but I was never able to trade this one again because it's restricted. And that's really about it. There was also a setup with TXTM, which actually wasn't too bad, but I never really traded it because I just hate the way the chart looks. But if you get rid of extended hours, it actually looks a lot better. And maybe I could have done something right here where it had this dip under VWAP and it started to trade back and forth here and consolidate and then look a bit stronger. And then, you know, right around here when it breaks this 15 level, as you can see, it did get to 16 and a half above VWAP, and that was a relatively quick move. That could have been something I could have traded, but again, this one just looked weird with the way the chart was with extended hours and everything, but I don't mind that too much. There was definitely a lot of things I could have done better with today, and I think for a stock that, you know, sold off pretty massively from the 67s to the 36 level, almost a 50% drop to just be out of this with just $3 of losses and learn a lot from it. I think that's a step in the right direction, and that's all I have for this first day here.